From half the tribe of Manasseh, and from the tribes of Reuben and Gad, there were 44,760 brave men ready for war. They were skilled in war. They carried shields and swords, and they were also good with bows and arrows. They started a war against the Hagrites and the people of Jetur, Naphish, and Nodab. The men from the tribes of Manasseh, Reuben, and Gad prayed to God during the war. They asked God to help them because they trusted Him, so God helped them. He allowed them to defeat the Hagrites and those who were with the Hagrites. They took the animals that belonged to the Hagrites. They took 50,000 camels, 250,000 sheep, 2,000 donkeys, and 100,000 people. Many Hagrites were killed because God helped the people of Reuben win the war. Then the tribes of Manasseh, Reuben, and Gad settled in the land of the Hagrites. They lived there until the time when the Israelites were taken into captivity. Half the tribe of Manasseh lived in the area of Bashan, all the way to Baal Hermon, Senir, and Mount Hermon. They became a very large group of people. These were the family leaders from half the tribe of Manasseh: Epher, Ishai, Eliel, Azriel, Jeremiah, Hodaviah, and Jadiel. They were all strong, brave, and famous men, and they were leaders in their families. But they sinned against the God their ancestors had worshipped. They began worshiping the false gods of the people God had destroyed, the people who had lived in the land before them. The God of Israel made King Pul of Assyria want to go to war. He was also called Tiglath-Pileser. He fought against the tribes of Manasseh, Reuben, and Gad. He forced them to leave their homes and made them prisoners. Pul took them to Halah, Habor, Hara, and near the Gozan River. Those tribes from Israel have lived in those places since that time until today. Amram's children were Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. Aaron's sons were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Eleazar was Phinehas' father. Phinehas was Abishua's father. Abishua was Bukai's father. Bukai was Uzziah's father. Uzziah was Zerahiah's father. Zerahiah was Marioth's father. Marioth was Amariah's father. Amariah was Ahitub's father. Ahitub was Zadok's father. Zadok was Ahimaaz's father. Ahimaaz was Azariah's father. Azariah was Johanan's father. Johanan was Azariah's father. Azariah is the one who served as priest in the temple that Solomon built in Jerusalem. Azariah was Amariah's father. Amariah was Ahitub's father. Ahitub was Zadok's father. Zadok was Shallum's father. Shallum was Hilkiah's father. Hilkiah was Azariah's father. Azariah was Sariah's father. Sariah was Jehozadak's father. Jehozadak was forced to leave his home when the Lord sent the people of Judah and Jerusalem away. Through Nebuchadnezzar, the Lord caused them all to be made prisoner in another country. Issachar had 4 sons. Their names were Tola, Pua, Jashub, and Shimron. Tola's sons were Uzziah, Raphiah, Jeriel, Jahmai, Ibsam, and Samuel. They were all leaders of their families. Those men and their descendants were strong soldiers. Their families grew. By the time David was king, there were 22,600 men ready for war. Uzziah's son was Azrahiah. Azrahiah's sons were Michael, Obadiah, Joel, and Isaiah. All 5 of them were leaders of their families. Their family history shows they had 36,000 soldiers ready for war. They had a large family because they had many wives and children. The family history shows there were 87,000 strong soldiers in all the tribes of Issachar. Benjamin had 3 sons. Their names were Bela, Becher, and Jadiel. Bela had 5 sons. Their names were Ezbon, Uzziah, Uzziel, Jeremoth, and Eri. They were leaders of their families. Their family history shows they had 22,034 soldiers. Becher's sons were Zemira, Joash, Eleazar, Elionai, Omri, Jeremoth, Abijah, Anathoth, and Elamath. They all were Becher's children. Their family history shows who the family leaders were, and it also shows they had 20,200 soldiers. Jadiel's son was Bilhan. Bilhan's sons were Jeush, Benjamin, Ehud, Kenana, Zethan, Tarshish, and Ahishahar. All of Jadiel's sons were leaders of their families. They had 17,200 soldiers ready for war. The Shupites and Hupites were the descendants of Ir. Hushim was the son of Aher. Naphtali's sons were Jaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shallum. And these are the descendants of Bilhah. These are Manasseh's descendants. Manasseh's Aramean slave woman had a son named Ezriel. She also bore Machir, the father of Gilead. Machir married a woman from the Huppites and Shuppites. Machir's sister was named Maacah. The name of the second was Zelophehad, who had only daughters. Machir's wife Maacah had a son. She named this son Perish. His brother was named Sheresh. The sons of Sheresh were Ulam and Rakim. Ulam's son was Bedan. These were the descendants of Gilead. Gilead was Machir's son. Machir was Manasseh's son. Machir's sister Hamoleketh had Ishdod, Abiezer, and Malah. Shemidah's sons were Ahian, Shechem, Lechi, and Aniam. These were the names of Ephraim's descendants. Ephraim's son was Shuthelah. Shuthelah's son was Bered. Bered's son was Taeth. Taeth's son was Eliada. Eliada's son was Taeth. Taeth's son was Zabad. Zabad's son was Shuthelah. Some men who grew up in the city of Gath killed Ezer and Eliad. This happened because Ezer and Eliad went there to steal cattle and sheep from those men in Gath. Ephraim was the father of Ezer and Eliad. He cried for many days because Ezer and Eliad were dead. Ephraim's family came to comfort him. Then Ephraim had sexual relations with his wife. She became pregnant and had a son. Ephraim named this new son Beriah because something bad had happened to his family. Ephraim's daughter was Shirah. Shirah built Lower Beth Horon and Upper Beth Horon and Lower Uzan Shirah and Upper Uzan Shirah. Repha was Ephraim's son. Resheph was Rephah's son. Telah was Resheff's son. Tahan was Telah's son. Ladan was Tahan's son. Ammihud was Ladan's son. Elishama was Ammihud's son. Nun was Elishama's son. Joshua was Nun's son. These are the cities and lands where Ephraim's descendants lived: Bethel and the villages near it, Naran to the east, Gezer and the villages near it on the west, and Shechem and the villages near it all the way to Aiah and the villages near it. Along the borders of Manasseh's land were the towns of Bethshan, Tanakh, Megiddo, and Dor, and the small towns near them. The descendants of Joseph lived in these towns. Joseph was the son of Israel. Asher's sons were Imnah, Ishvi, and Beriah. Their sister was named Sarah. Beriah's sons were Heber and Machil. Machil was Berzaiah's father. Heber was the father of Jephlet, Shomer, Hotham, and their sister Shua. Jephlet's sons were Pesach, Bimhal, and Ashvath. These were Jephlet's children. Shomer's sons were Ai, Roga, Jehuba, and Aram. Shomer's brother was Helam. Helam's sons were Jopha, Imnah, Shelish, and Amal. Zophah's sons were Shua, Harnefer, Shual, Beri, Imrah, Bezer, Had, Shammah, Shilsha, Ithran, and Bera. Jether's sons were Jephanah, Pispa, and Ara. Ulah's sons were Ara, Haniel, and Raziah. All these men were descendants of Asher. They were leaders of their families. They were the best men. They were soldiers and great leaders. Their family history shows 26,000 soldiers were ready for war. Benjamin was Belah's father. Belah was Benjamin's first son. Ashbel was Benjamin's second son. Ahira was Benjamin's third son. Noah was Benjamin's fourth son. And Rapha was Benjamin's fifth son. Belah's sons were Adar, Gera, Abihud, Abishua, Naaman, Ahoah, Gera, Shephufan, and Hurin. These were the descendants of Ehud. They were leaders of their families in Geba. They were forced to leave their homes and move to Manahath. Ehud's descendants were Naaman, Ahijah, and Gera. Gera forced them to leave their homes. He was the father of Uzzah and Ahihud. Shaharaim divorced his wives, Hushim and Bera, in Moab. After he did this, he had some children with another wife. Shaharaim had Jobab, Zibiah, Misha, Malcolm, Jeuz, Sakiah, and Mirma with his wife Hodish. They were leaders of their families. Shaharaim and Hushim had two sons named Abitub and Ilpal. Ilpal's sons were Eber, Misham, Shemed, Beriah, and Shema. Shemed built the towns of Ono and Lod and the small towns around Lod. Beriah and Shema were the leaders of the families living in Aijalon. They forced the people who lived in Gath to leave. Beriah's sons were Shashak and Jeremoth. Zebediah, Arad, Eder, Michael, Ishpa, and Joah. Elpal's sons were Zebediah, Meshullam, Hizki, Heber, Ishmerai, Isliah, and Jobab. Shimeah's sons were Jachim, Zichri, Zabdi, Elionai, Zelathai, Eliel, Adiah, Beriah, and Shimrath. Shashak's sons were Ishpan, Eber, Eliel, Abdon, Zichri, Hanan, Hananiah, Elam, Anthothijah, Iphthiah, and Peniel. Jeroam's sons were Shemsharai, Shehariah, Athaliah, Jerushiah, Elijah, and Zichri. All these men were leaders of their families. They were listed in their family histories as leaders. They lived in Jerusalem.